So it's finally time to update my tobacco fragrances video. It's a top 20 list, tobacco fragrances, one of my favorite notes. I'm sure you guys enjoy this note too, don't you? Put a comment down, let me know if you enjoy this note, and also let me know what your favorite tobacco fragrances are. But find out about my top 20 tobacco fragrances coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sebastian. We're talking about tobacco fragrances today. I did a honey tobacco video recently, and I meant to do an updated top 20 tobacco fragrances video, and that's what I've got for you today. But before I get to the list, I wanted to do a quick first impressions on a brand new fragrance that I have here called Café Tabac from AEDES de VENUSTAS, this one right here. You guys familiar with this house? Let me know, put a comment down below. This is a fragrance created by Bertrand Duchaufour. It's a New York City based niche house. 100 ml for $2.45. Notes are tobacco absolute, dried dates, dried figs, cacao, burnt sugar, mango, beeswax absolute, apple davana, clary sage, vanilla, oakmoss, cistus labdanum, tonka beans, cedarwood, ambergris, and cade. A lot of notes goes into this. I haven't really smelled it yet, so I've opened it up, but I wanted to leave it for this video because I'm pretty new to this fragrance, and I knew I was doing a tobacco video and this was arriving, so wanted to do a first impressions on you guys. This is my very first AEDES de VENUSTAS fragrance out of all of the fragrances they've launched. They used to sell them at Barney's, but in different bottles. They've been redone, rebranded, redesigned. I actually really like these ribbed bottles, and the box is like this. But let's go ahead and quickly smell. It's Café Tabac, meaning a cafe where you can smoke cigarettes. Probably something that doesn't exist much anymore because you can go to a cafe but not really allowed to smoke. I do like the idea of this one. And on first smell, it is quite delicious. I'm picking up more of a honeyed tobacco effect with woods and amber touches that come in as well. For me, it's sweet and dirty, ashy tobacco at the same time. With spices in the background, I'm picking up a little bit of sweet, sugary touches, honey touches, and then also some chocolatey essences as well. The cloves are pretty prominent here. Do enjoy that note in fragrances. It is giving me a bit of holiday vibe. This is quite delicious, actually, and also a little bit of maybe tea. I'm getting a bit of tea, but I think it's the clove tricking my nose. So far, so good. Enjoy it. Does give me an idea of some other kind of similar fragrances. And also, one other thing I should say, kind of reminds me a little bit of Tea for Two because I'm getting that tea vibe. I'm not seeing ginger in here, so I think all the notes combined together creates this kind of a reminder of something like Tea for Two, because Tea for Two did have tobacco in it. It had ginger and gingerbread, but also it had the tobacco, of course. But so far, so good. Delicious. I'll put it to more use. But Café Tabac from AEDES de VENUSTAS, a brand new release. Let me know if you've gotten your nose on that fragrance. Put a comment down below so I can find out. Now on to the list. We're starting at number 20 with Parfums de NICOLAI CUBA Intense. This is at number 20, and it's a tobacco fragrance, but it doesn't wear like a lot of tobacco fragrances for me. It's more fresh, and I feel like we're getting tobacco leaves in this one rather than the actual burned ashiness of the tobacco, the dirtiness, the smoked tobacco. But it's tobacco, licorice, hay, cumin, lavender, star anise, mint, coriander, and magnolia. And again, this one wears a bit fresh to me. It has aromatics, spices, minty kind of spices as well, but also a kind of green booziness from star anise. I think it's nice, but when I want tobacco, I want it to be more of that kind of burned, smoky, ashy tobacco. So it's CUIR CUBA Intense from the house of Parfums de NICOLAI. Next, we've got Parfums DUSITA's ISSARA, this one right here at number 20. This is like a tobacco fougere for me, but more like a classic barbershop fragrance. For some reason, this fragrance reminds me of my dad and kind of like the barbershop fragrances he wore. This is tobacco, clary sage, pine, coumarin, vetiver, oakmoss, woods, musk, and amber. And I feel like I get a kind of honeyed effect with this fragrance from the amber. There's this kind of a sweet amber honey kind of a touch with this one, all against the tobacco, the clary sage, and all the aromatic notes and the spices that come in as well. It kind of has that feeling of an afternoon glow in the warmth of autumn. It's got a very autumn vibe. And once again, the tobacco is not necessarily very ashy, burnt, or smoky. It's there to give you this kind of accentuation, but for me, it's mostly a fougere, an amber fougere. So ISSARA from the house of Parfums DUSITA at number 19. Then we've got a fragrance from the house of BDK. It's TABAC Rose, this one right here, created by Julien Rascanet. So this is chocolate, tobacco, and rose. It's quite rosy for me. It definitely has a very prominent rose in the chocolate note, and tobacco, once again, comes in, gives you that contrast. There's a bit of fruitiness here from plum as well, and eventually it settles to an amber, woody, spicy thing, but very prominent with the tobacco and the rose. And the chocolate, it gives you like a gourmand edge, chocolatey edge to the fragrance, but it's a nice balance of, you know, that sweet, soft, dark chocolate or chocolatey effect with that ashy tobacco, some smokiness, and then the bright, jammy rose that's in here. It's quite nice. It's not necessarily one of my all-time favorites of the tobacco fragrances I'm talking about today, but definitely pleasant if you like something chocolatey and also rosy. So that's TABAC Rose from the house of BDK, created by Julien Rascanet. Moving on to the house of by KILIAN, it's Smoking Hot. This one right here. Are you guys a fan of this one? This is a brand new release created by Matthew Nardin. It's bourbon vanilla, Orcanox, tobacco absolute, Oakmoss, apples, cinnamon, shisha tobacco. It has that kind of a Middle Eastern pipe tobacco kind of effect here. It's fairly pleasant for me. It's also very fruity, and I think it's the appley fruitiness that gives you that kind of shisha tobacco, hookah tobacco kind of a effect. I haven't really fully embraced this fragrance. Perhaps it'll move up the list later after maybe a year or so, but it's fairly decent here, and I enjoy it definitely more than the first fragrance I spoke about before I got to the Smoking Hot. But maybe perhaps it'll eventually win me over completely and the fragrance will rank higher. But for now, I feel like Smoking Hot is definitely at its right spot here from KILIAN. But do let me know if you are a fan of that one and what you like about that one when it comes to that KILIAN fragrance Smoking Hot. Next, we've got a designer. It's DIOR's TOBACOLOR, this one right here. It's a honeyed and fruity plummy take on tobacco, and it has tobacco, honey, tobacco leaf, smoke, white tobacco, plums, and amber notes. For sure, it's very ambery, and the tobacco in here is a bit, I don't know if that's the word to use, animalic. There's some kind of roughness about this tobacco against all that sweetness of the honey and the plums and the amber notes. Smoke is definitely in here as well. You'll definitely experience it, and I like my, tobacco fragrances to have that smokiness, because in the end, there is smoke created when you're smoking a cigarette, or maybe you're smoking, a pipe or something. But eventually this does create that smokiness, and it is definitely very honeyed and tobacco-ish. But it's definitely not my all-time favorite Dior. I really enjoy Dior Vanilla Diorama. This one definitely is solid. Again, when I'm comparing it to other tobacco fragrances, I prefer the others a little more. But I think it has its fans. Let me know if you're a fan of TOBACOLOR from the house of Dior. Put a comment down below so I can find out. Moving on to the house of BYREDO, it's Tobacco Mandarin in the Night Veils collection. This is a collection of extract the parfum concentration fragrances, and tobacco and mandarin is quite nice, very resinous and very ambery as well, and it has leather with the tobacco. There's cumin, labdanum. Of course, it's got prominent mandarin orange note, and then of course olibanum and sandalwood, and I think it's the labdanum and the olibanum giving me this very resinous ambery experience here when I'm wearing it. So there's definitely a bit of roughness with this one as well, and of course the fact that there's leather. It's uber intense, very, very long lasting. It is extrait de parfum, and it comes only in the 50 ml size because it is fairly pricey. But I think it's fairly solid here. I do prefer it more than TOBACOLOR. I like that roughness about this one and the contrast of the mandarin orange note against the tobacco, that dirtiness of the tobacco. This is BYREDO's Tobacco Mandarin at number 15. Acro Smoke has slipped a little bit, but you know what? There is another fragrance that's on the list now that does remind me of Acro Smoke, but Acro Smoke was a great discovery one summer in Los Angeles at the scent bar in DTLA. Although I had sampled this fragrance at Javoy at the earlier part of the year, same year, like in January, didn't think twice about it, but this fragrance, wearing it in the heat, is what really made me really fall in love with it. In the end, it does remind me a little bit faintly of Tobacco Vanille, but it's much smokier than Tobacco Vanille. So tobacco, smoke, benzoin, cade oil, tonka beans is what it is. It's the benzoin that sweetens things up, giving you that kind of vanilla kind of vibe, because benzoin can be used with vanilla to give you the resinous vanillic touch, or in place of vanilla to be less vanillic. But I think it's a great fragrance. It's kind of on the thin side. That's why I feel like it's very wearable in the summertime, and you can get away with wearing it in the heat. It's also the fact that it's on the lighter side. I think it'd be a great layering tool. I would layer this with Tobacco Vanille to give it a bit of a smoky edge, and also intensify Tobacco Vanille if you need intensifying, or find another fragrance that might suit that you can layer with, because it's complex, but it's a bit thin, so you can kind of find a similar fragrance that you want to boost up the intensity of and wear it with that. But this is great. It's Acra Smoke. It's definitely a tobacco fragrance I can wear in the summertime. So at number 13, it is Serge Lutens Écrin de Fumée, this one right here. I recently did a short on this one, and I really enjoyed it. And a lot of you said it's basically Les Indomidables Vanille Havane, but a little different. But you know what? I do see the similarities, or maybe similar ideas, but perhaps they're different because they wear different for me. This one doesn't have fruits and vanillic touches. It's mostly about the cacao, where it creates a chocolatey touch, tobacco, and rum, whereas the Vanille Havane does have more of a complexity. And in fact, Vanille Havane comes right after Écrin de Fumée from Serge Lutens. They are definitely similar ideas, but executed differently. With the Écrin de Fumée, it's mostly about the cacao, tobacco, rum. Even though it has a very ambery, resinous touch, it kind of wears not necessarily uber complex. It wears heavy, but there's not a lot of different things happening except for the cacao, tobacco, rum. It's very smoky, and it's basically a smoky take on the rum and cocoa or chocolatey touches in here with the whole tobacco touch. With the Vanille Havane, though, at number 12, there's definitely much more happening, and you definitely experience it. You've got tobacco, rum, cocoa, vanilla, dried fruits, amber, leather, and floral notes. So there's a lot more things happening here with this fragrance. You experience them, the vanillic touches, the leather comes in, and the dried fruits to give you more of a vibe of Tobacco Vanille for me rather than Écrin de Fumée, whereas Écrin de Fumée, it's more simplistic even though it wears heavy. But either way, both of these are really great. Écrin de Fumée at number 13, Les Indomidables Vanille Havane at number 12. So next up, we've got a fragrance from the house of Xerjoff. It's Naxos, this one right here. So Naxos seems to be a very popular tobacco fragrance. For me, it's an amber fougere, and it definitely wears like one with the addition of tobacco. And I seem to find a lot of tobacco and fougere fragrances. So either way, this one has that kind of warm touches, warm spices, the honeyed, ambery touches, so it wears more like a amber fougere fragrance with the addition of tobacco. Plus there's the reminder of Pure Havane from Mugler, and that's been long discontinued by L'Oreal Mugler. So the great idea is to wear something from Xerjoff, which is actually really great fragrance, and I can see why it's very popular for Xerjoff. So it's Naxos at number 11. Let me know if you're a fan of that one. Moving on to the house of Amouage, it's Journeyman, this one right here. Definitely one of my favorite fragrances from Amouage. I absolutely love this one. It does have a bit of a rough animalistic quality about it. The tobacco leaf in here is quite nice. There's definitely smokiness in here as well. There's incense, I think that's what's creating the smokiness. Spices like Sichuan pepper, leather, juniper berries, cardamom. It's fiery hot for me. For sure, it's got that kind of an effect when you're wearing it. But definitely really, really solid. Leather, tobacco together. What a combination. It works really wonderfully. So Amouage's Journeyman at number 10. We've got Animal Mondaine next from the house of Pierre Guillaume. Really, really a delicious take on tobacco, and I love the combination of tobacco and honey. I think these two notes were made for each other because they really bring out the best in each other and make for a really wonderful fragrance. That's why I did a whole video on tobacco and honey together. You can go catch that video, and we've got several of those fragrances here, and this is definitely one of my favorites. It's tobacco, honey, pear leaf, hay, and mahogany for one intoxicatingly delicious fragrance. And the cool thing about this one is it does have a bit of a retro vibe. It reminds reminds me of the original Michael Kors that came out in 2001 in a more indie niche direction. Really awesome stuff here. Animal Mundane from the house of Pierre Guillaume. Let me know if you know that one, and do put a comment down below so I can find out. But moving on to a house called Plume Impression. It's Royal Bourbon for a very holiday vibe fragrance with not only tobacco, but you've got boozy notes of rum in here as well, for a very delicious, spicy, intoxicatingly boozy tobacco fragrance with licorice, cinnamon, ginger, pepper, rum, tobacco, there's leather, caramel, vanilla, benzoin, amber cedar. It's so good. This is a really wonderful offering. It was recently featured in mystery box number 2, and I know a lot of people were really enjoying this particular fragrance, and it's definitely one of the best from this house. And I like the fact that all these warm, spicy notes come in with the booze and the tobacco, because they all kind of go together hand in hand. But really delicious offering here. Plume Impressions, Royal Bourbon. Let me know if you know that particular fragrance. Moving on to the house of Maison Violet. It's Un Air d'Apogée, this one right here. Un Air d'Apogée is so delicious. Definitely one of the best from Maison Violet. If you don't know this one, do check it out. I actually really love it. It's tobacco, haze, suede, cashmeran, mimosa, iris, leather, ambroxan, and sage. This to me is sweet, honeyed. There's no mention of honey. We're getting that honeyed effect from the mimosa. It's once again trickery for the nose when you have certain notes and they have these certain elements with these notes, and they can use the notes in a certain way to bring out the effect of a honey, which this one definitely needs, and it feels like there is the honey. But it's wonderful with the tobacco. It's not necessarily uber smoky, but there's some light smoky ashiness there. Leather, musks, and amber all rolled into one. Super delicious fragrance. Un Air d'Apogée from the house of Maison Violet. Let me know if you know that one. I should say Maison Violet's Un Air d'Apogée was also featured in a Scent Club number 2, which was the original Scent Club with the decants. But moving on to the house of Parfums de Marly, it's Herod. Herod used to be one of my all-time favorite fragrances from this house. It still is definitely one of my favorites. It was definitely one of my all-time favorite tobacco fragrances. It's moved around, as if you've noticed in this list, a lot of things have moved around. You'll notice more in the top 5. But to me, it's still a wonderful offering, even though it's not one of the loudest fragrances from Marly. It's cinnamon, vanilla, tobacco, osmanthus, labdanum, vetiver, and incense and pepper. To me, definitely a really great Olivier Pechot creation. He did a great job. Sadly, he passed away last year, and he's left us with some great fragrances, including Herod from Marly, and then of course a lot of different fragrances for Diptyque as well. But this is definitely one of the best from Parfums de Marly. Herod, created by Olivier Pechot, at number 6. Next, a fragrance that was recently featured in Mystery Box. It's become a really major favorite of mine. It's Angelos Creations Olfactives Caricia, this one right here. So, you know, I was talking about smoke. For me, Caricia reminds me of smoke. There's major smokiness here. And also under the smoke and tobacco, all the tobacco stuff in here, there's a gourmand element. So it's almost like gourmand light, because smoke and tobacco, all of it covers it up. And it's super delicious and really potent. If you like smoke and you want more potency, definitely try Caricia. It is really long lasting, really intense. In fact, I'm wearing it now and it is really projecting off of me, and I sprayed it on like hours ago. So it's tobacco leaves, Bulgarian tobacco absolute, beeswax, frankincense, acacia, English oakwood, Madagascar vanilla, hazelnut syrup, pancake, tonka beans, blood orange, saffron, nutmeg, hinoki, white cypress. A lot of different notes. In fact, that's portion of the notes that I'm reading to you. There's a lot going on here. It's very complex, but super gourmand, smoky, really delicious. One of the best. Definitely check it out. It's Angelos Creations Olfactives, and it's Caricia at number 5. And then number 4, Tobacco Vanille. Yeah, this used to be really high up. It is still pretty high up. It's top 5. But there's some other fragrances that I'm enjoying a little more now. It's definitely an older fragrance, but still one of the best. It's got that holiday spice vibe with tobacco, vanilla, spices, cacao, tonka beans, and dried fruits for a super intoxicating, really amazing designer take on tobacco and vanilla. Dried tobacco, a bit syrupy vanilla, creates for more of a dry wear. The fruitiness comes in, the spices comes in. Spices like cinnamon, cloves, maybe some nutmeg, cardamom, maybe, you know, all these spices rolled into one. But to me, it's definitely one of the best, and that's why it's here still in the top 5 at number 4. So it's Tobacco Vanille, one of the best tobacco fragrances out there. Do let me know if you're a fan of that one. So at number 3, we've got Guerlain's Tobacco Honey. Yes, I've become a real big fan of this one. It is now outpaced Tobacco Vanille. You know, it's a newer one, and I'm enjoying this one more because I like the combination. The honey is really super amazing, and the honey is so realistic, which makes for a really intoxicating wear. Honey, oud, vanilla, tobacco, tonka, sandalwood, sesame, anise, cloves. I've heard people say the tobacco is not as strong as the honey. I can see that, but I love honey in fragrances, and because the honey in this is so realistic, so sweet, so powdery, so delicious, the tobacco in there comes and cuts through and gives me a really nice balance of tobacco with honey, with a little bit more honey I should say, but super amazing fragrance here. Guerlain's tobacco honey is super amazing. If you haven't tried that one, do check it out. Really super intoxicating, really delicious, really also long lasting, really long lasting. If you haven't tried it yet, please do try it because I think that's a really great fragrance. Moving on to the House of Caron, it's TABAC Exquis at number 2. This was such a surprise for me, and I'm absolutely head over heels for this one. That's why it's here at number 2, because I absolutely love the smell. The smell is so amazing, so addicting. I've gone through a 50 ml bottle, now on my 100. I mean, I've kind of gotten tired of it. It's just been, you know, like less than a year that I've used up the whole 50 ml. I went through that thing, and it wears so good on me. It's not as strong as some other fragrances, but great, you know, staying power, just not like the projection and things, but the smell is amazing. It's cinnamon bark, tobacco, chocolate, cocoa, labdanum, benzoin, myrrh, ambroxan, jasmine, iris, frankincense. If you haven't got your nose on this one, please do. It's super delicious with a gourmand edge in tobacco and spices. Definitely has a holiday spice vibe as well. This is TABAC Exquis from Caron at number 2. And now I have rediscovered this fragrance. I once owned this fragrance in a bell jar, Serge Lutens bell jars, and I wore through that thing because I had bought it in 2013. I repurchased this mid 2023, and man, it's so good. This is Serge Lutens Fumerie Turque, this one right here. If you don't know Fumerie Turque, it is super intoxicatingly delicious. It's tobacco, honey, suede, patchouli, tonka, vanilla, chamomile, styrax, juniper, Turkish rose, red currants. If you like the idea of a musky take on a honeyed tobacco, this is the one for you. It's so addicting, the smell. It is an older release too. It's just like I said, I've rediscovered this in this bottle because when I first bought it, it was in the bell jar. That's no longer. They've moved it into this collection. Oh man, it is so super good. If you don't know it, please check it out. It's a little more complicated to get Serge Lutens fragrances here in the States, but if you can find it, do get it because it is super amazing. So it's Fumerie Turque from the house of Serge Lutens. That is at number 1. And that's my video for you guys today. If you don't know these fragrances, please check them out. If you are a fan of these, do let me know what your favorites are and how would you rank this list. Maybe give me a top 5 or something. I'd like to find out. Put a comment down below so I can find out. But last but not least, please let me know if there's any fragrances I've missed. I know I've left some stuff off. You can go catch my tobacco fragrance videos on the channel because there might be some stuff on the other videos that are not here and vice versa. But if there's something new out there that you're enjoying that's kind of brand spanking new in a tobacco fragrance that I haven't spoken about, please let me know what it is. Put a comment down below so I can find out. Either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. And I've got a few bonus options for you today. It's the 3rd Serge Lutens fragrance out of 2 I've already featured in the main list, and this is the 3rd one. It's Chergui. Serge Lutens has 3 tobacco fragrances, and Chergui is probably the most popular of the 3, or maybe the most mass. Everybody seems to enjoy this one. And it's tobacco, hay, honey, rose, and other notes together. I've worn this one since 2012, a bit bored of it, but I'm highlighting it here just in case you want another option for a tobacco fragrance from the house. But definitely, if you are a fan of Serge Lutens or Serge Lutens-like fragrances, not only check out Chergui, but also check out Écrin de Fumée, this one right here, and then of course Fumerie Turque, my number 1 in this video. All 3 are great, but I much prefer the other 2 versus Chergui because I've used so much of Chergui before. And then also the status of this one is a bit up in the air, but you might hunt down a a discounted fragrance from a discounter because I see some around. It's Tobacco Oud from Tom Ford. Really one of my favorite private blend collection fragrances. It is really, really super amazing. It's a bit dirty with a lot of tobacco. There's whiskey, there's spices, and you know, all kinds of notes like that to give you a bit more of an edgy take on tobacco, but really, really wonderful offering from the private blend collection that's definitely worth mentioning. So Tom Ford's Tobacco Oud from the private blend collection is my second bonus option. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys later. Bye-bye.